Welcome back to Indian Trace. I guess it's a good thing that our bodies are designed to repair themselves, to recover. I feel a lot better than I did in the last two, how should I say, Stone Stories videos. I went ahead and pulled, this is one bin, so I'm still usually humbled when I haven't seen things for a while, and I really haven't. And if I haven't, as I say, then many of you guys out there, many of the subscribers, I can't really put too much stock in the views. That just doesn't even compare to the subscribers, so I know there must be some type of no alerts being sent out or shadow banning. I can leave it at that for various reasons. And it's definitely not because of how nice these are to me. Number one, I'm not saying they're nice in general compared to everybody's. They're just really nice quality to me. The best that I can find that I feature many times in these display videos. We'll leave it at that because, I mean, from here to California, you guys find some incredible artifacts, incredible stuff. So I'll just share what incredible stuff I'm able to get. This is just a sort of a display video, but if I can get my thoughts together, it's really about the stories behind each one of these finds, if there be any stories. And since they're top shelf, it's very easy for me to remember where they came from. Things that you don't really let go. There's some really great looking, what I call varied material. I think most of this stuff is fairly indigenous to this region where I live. But I'll just go through them while I have the time. Here in the afternoon, well, there's good light. This piece is fairly new. I got about a year ago maybe at Notchville. This was just, it's on the middle run, best I can describe it, of Notchville. And it is indicative of why I call it Notchville. I mean, plain and simple. Fantastic notch point. So these just continue to repeat themselves out there, and it just clarifies. You know, at first when I named it that, it was because I found a couple, and I really liked notch points, and I had found a whole lot of them. So I said, I'm going to name the place, and it has proven itself. You know, proven itself in spades, I guess you could call it. So, just happy as can be about those kind of points. It was a really great point. And I usually remember the conditions, circumstance that I found them in and what have you, but I just wanted to give you an up close and personal. In sort of a time in my collecting, since I've only really been collecting intelligently 6 years, at best. Here's a point from Hidden Hill. Now I remember it was the only point I found that day. I went over just to make a double check at a family friend's property. Look at the bevel on this thing here. Spooned it right out. Points really speak for themselves. Just unique, varied material. It's worth going out, you know. I didn't really even expect to find anything that day. Many times when you go out and you find stuff, that's the way it is. I mean, this was in the harvested potatoes that I got this off of Mecca. Funny thing is, if you could see the visual that I pull, I know the exact spot that most of these were pulled off of, and could probably bring you within feet of it. I don't know how the brain works that way. I really don't. Just something that's not forgotten. And I was just chatting with somebody who made a comment, and I said, you know, I think it's probably because it's a sacred thing to me, you know. Here's a piece maybe 2 years ago off of Crystal Beach. And here's a good rule of thumb what this one came in. The rule of thumb is, and I think I probably got this saying, I get a lot of sayings from Georgia Robin Terry, and he might have said it. I think he's one of the ones I pull little phrases from. But, you know, it's never over till you step off the dirt. And this was at a place at Crystal Beach that I take for granted that's not going to produce anything. So I was just cutting over to another place, and lo and behold, this was just stark naked right out in the open. So I really taught myself a lesson that day, and it's taught myself a lesson the days that have come forth from there since. You know, the days of your collecting, just good little tips. Look at the variated material together, though. All good stuff. Look at these three. Here's a point from the hawk. Almost 4 years ago, very early point. At the pinnacle of the hawk, which means the hottest spot of the hawk. I think this is very old, but what's very old? 3,000, 4,000 years, 5,000 years? I'm not sure. Big Sandy, maybe. Just a great looking ancient point. Another one from Notchville. What I would call the lower run of Notchville, just sticking out, perfectly held in the mud. You know those points when they're just like that. Just like that, perfectly held in the mud. I even know it was in that direction right there. But that's what it's about. You go out there and you say the best you can. Far and away, here's a point right here from Site 6. One of the few places that comes open. It's like super rare. Probably the landowner doesn't need to cultivate the crops there that much. Once in a while, I guess, out of convenience, he uses companies to commission out different crops. Don't know. It's just the way sometimes landowners are. They're not full-time farmers. Nice stuff, though. Here's one of the first of these variated that I've ever found in Site 7. Stillwater. And they really speak to themselves, for themselves. I haven't seen them in a while, so it's good for me, but they're top shelf variated material. Around here, I don't know. I would like to say it doesn't get any better. I know a couple fellas have collections, but at the same time, I don't try to blow my horn and bring these all over the place to show them off. That's problematic, as you guys know. So a lot of it's, you just don't know. You know, there's a few other collectors out there, what have you. Here's a Mecca point. Funny, this point right here and this point really came from the same spot. Same area. It's good stuff. As well as this point here that I didn't look at yet. This one. Those three. From Mecca. You guys have heard that name a lot. And this is fairly new. This is about a year old, 2018 point. Who knows? But when you see all this material together, it starts to speak like it needs to be together. So I just sort of keep it together. Don't go really by the styles. I sort of go by heart. How I organize my collection. I organize it by emotion and by heart. Smoke Hill. It's a Smoke Hill point. The focus is not coming in, so I'm really having a problem with that. But that's a great basic point. Which is actually Site 6. Near Cascade, near Crescent Woods. If you've heard these names mentioned on the channel. And look at this piece. Piece from the Archaic. So I don't want to take too much time with these, but I do want to do some series where I just share a story or two. This was, you know, a field that has not just been planted, but it actually had been harvested. And the hillside of the Archaic has long runs where the rainwater and the farm water run down through these long runs, and this was just in the wash, just like a little creek, the cortex. And that's the kind of stuff you find at the Archaic over and over and over again. The Archaic is put out, you know, that might not be a G10 to some, but it's a great point, but it's put out a lot of G10s at the Archaic. The final point from Crystal Beach, one of my favorites. Almost reminds me of a rice side notch. But a style I love, and variated. I can remember that was a day when the roads were high, lots of dirt, fairly watered down, and just a lot of good finding that could happen if you do the work. If you know where to walk. Mm, I just I'm just blown away. I actually, in all literal terms, and I don't just say it for conversation. Uh, I don't even know what to think about it. I don't know how on earth, when I look at my collection, uh, it's possible. Because I go back to memories that I've had in museums when I was a young boy, and thinking that those museums had soul rights, that I would only be able to admire and gaze upon them through the glass. Never thought in my wildest dreams that I could go out and find, cultivate collections, as we all do, that are significantly better than so many museums. And I'm sure of it, which is powerful. Powerful. Appreciate you tuning in to Indian Trace. Just wanted to give you a good look at some variated materials and some great Indian Trace. And all that right there, that's Indian Trace.